You're listening to Docs Outside the Box, episode 21.
Welcome to Docs Outside the Box podcast. This is your official show, looking inside the minds of cutting-edge and innovative doctors. Think you'll find these stories in any medical textbook? Sorry, you're getting real live insight from men and women pushing the envelope beyond medicine. Ordinary doctors doing extraordinary things. Let's start now with your host, Dr. Nee Darko.
This episode of Docs Outside the Box is brought to you by Equal Access Health. Created for doctors, by doctors, Equal Access Health was established with the specific goal of improving a doctor's quality of life, all while providing continuous quality care for patients. We offer competitive rates for doctors and low costs for employers. We're not your average locums company. Besides using the latest in technology, we provide our docs with resources to help manage finances as an independent contractor. Worried about taxes, health insurance, investments, debt payoff, or even savings? EAH has got you covered. At EAH, you're more than just a locum, you're a colleague. To learn more about EAH locums, visit us at www.equalaccesshealth.net or email us at info@equalaccesshealth.net. What's good, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Docs Outside the Box. I'm your host, Dr. Nee Darko, and thank you again for joining me. I've got a good one for you today. Before we get into the interview, I want to take a quick moment to highlight another 5-star review on iTunes. This review is from Jonathan Hyde, and it's noted as a game changer. This podcast is a game changer. I'm so glad that I found this podcast at the very beginning of my medical career. The information on this podcast is essential to anyone in the medical field, and I highly recommend it to everyone. Dr. Darko does an amazing job as an interviewer and asks in-depth and thought-provoking questions. All of the guests have been informative and interesting to hear from. This podcast absolutely inspires me to live outside the box. So Jonathan Hyde, thank you again for your 5-star review. It is definitely appreciated. Thank you so much. So remember, everyone, if you want to leave a review, the links are in the show notes, the bottom of the show notes. Take 45 seconds to 1 minute. It's very quick. It helps the show to grow. It helps me to expand the reach of the show. So on to the next one. My next guest is Dr. Letitia Rowe. The key words for this interview is vision, purpose, and strategy. And after listening to this interview, no doubt you're definitely going to understand what I'm talking about. She is founder of Click Clinic, which is a leader in the telemedicine realm. Very quickly, she started out working in an accountable care organization in Houston, Texas. And at the same time, she finished her MBA and transitioned into urgent care. And something that I think we all can relate to, or most people can relate to, she was dissatisfied with urgent care. And she noted that her social media presence was increasing when she started this healthy living challenge online. And what she says is people were reaching out to her all the time. People were reaching out to her. They wanted to connect with her. They wanted feedback from her. They wanted healthy advice. They wanted medical advice. And obviously, not knowing these people and treating people online, there's a lot of different legal ramifications with that. But nonetheless, she saw an opportunity and she decided to transition into health coaching. But ultimately, she wondered, how could she connect with her patients? How could she monetize this? So noticing that there was a void with her patients and patients that needed to be treated online, she knew that there was a better way. She knew that there was a better calling. So eventually in 2013, December of 2013, she quit her job and decided to start Click Clinic. And she entirely bootstrapped this. And that means no loans, everyone. And the rest is history. And now Click Clinic is a leader in the realm of telemedicine. It literally provides practice management support for physicians who are in private practice, as well as physicians who are just starting up in the realm of telemedicine. And if you go to her website, you can see, she has well over 30 practitioners who are credentialed. It's a thing of beauty. Very quickly, she went to the University of Miami, the U, for her undergrad. And then she went to Philadelphia and went to medical school at the Temple University. And then went back to Texas and went to Baylor College of Medicine and finished her residency at family medicine. and then also got her executive MBA at the University of Houston, and she is now located and practicing in Houston, Texas. She has numerous accolades that you can read about that are too much to list on this episode, but one of them is she was named top 40 under 40 by the National Medical Association in 2012, and she is active in so many different organizations like the Physician Mom Group, the American Telemedicine Association, as well as Physicians Working Together. As always, I love to give people things to pick up in this episode. So the things that I want you to pick up are, I want you to learn about how fear of failure as well as success can cripple you. We also get to talk about the concept of, and I'm sure you all have heard of this quote, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you ask for. She's got an amazing story about that. We're also going to talk about what's the buy-in for patients with Click It Clinic, as well as what's also the buy-in for doctors. We're going to learn about the doubts, the fears that she had in starting the business, and how she was able to move past all of that to where she literally is an official boss. Bold. We're also going to talk about, and I think this is really interesting, we'll talk about the relationship between physicians and hospitals and how she thinks that should be more of a partnership as opposed to more of an employer-employee type of relationship. So this is very important. And of course, we're going to learn how she answers hashtag I'm not just a doc. So without further ado, I present Dr. Letitia Rowe. Back at it again with another episode of Docs Outside the Box. I'm really excited to bring to you Dr. Letitia Rowe, CEO, founder of Click It Clinic. Dr. Rowe, thanks for being on the show.
Great. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
Oh, yeah. I've been looking forward to getting you on the show for a long time. So I'm really excited. I know the audience is excited to hear about Click It Clinic and everything that you've been doing with that, as well as virtual summits and virtual physician summits. So thank you for being on the show.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So before we get too much into the nitty gritty, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us what medical school you went to, residency, things like that.
Awesome. It's interesting whenever someone says, what school did you go to? I say, well, which one? I have 4 degrees. Or I have 4 institutions of higher learning. I went to the University of Miami for undergraduate.
The U.
Yes, the U. Thank you for recognizing that. And came out of there and continued on to Temple University in Philadelphia. Here in Texas, they say Temple, Texas. They say no.
Nah, that's a big difference.
And then went on to Baylor College of Medicine to do my family medicine residency. And in my final year of residency, started business school at Baylor College of Business, which is at the University of Houston, and completed my MBA 1 year after residency.
Now tell us about you getting your business degree. Was that always the plan? Is that part of your residency program?
It was always the plan. When I was in undergrad, I told my mom I was not going to be a doctor. I was going to major in entrepreneurship. She basically was ready to disown me.
Wait, do you have a family of physicians or something? Or
no, I just wanted to be a doctor since I was like 5 years old. But at the same time, I always had an eye for business. And so, in the name of continuing my inheritance, I went on to medical school, but still loved medicine, was passionate about medicine, but always felt very conflicted, like I had to choose between the two. And my compromise was that when I went to Temple, I had intended to enroll in the MD-MBA program where you take 2 years off after the first 2 years. And I said, if I stop, I'm just not going to finish. And went through, completed medical school and looked out for residency programs with an MBA. And that's why I chose Baylor, because they had a program where not only would my MBA be paid for, but they would allot time during residency to do so. So I was very strategic. And so I will say it was not always in the plan, but a part of me always wanted to do it.
Now, what was your focus?
I had to have an executive MBA, so there was no specific focus.
Right.
The MBA was tailored towards individuals with higher, aspirations for C-suite. Most of my classmates were in oil and gas. It was myself and one other individual that were actually in healthcare. So really, it was not focused at all on healthcare, which I think in the bigger picture, it was really good for me.
Hey, can you speak more about that? Why do you think it was really good for you?
For the simple fact that being in healthcare, I understand healthcare. And at that point, I was not sure what I wanted to do with the MBA, but I truly believed that I would not use it in healthcare. I thought I would, practice medicine until I was bored with it. I would get my MBA and I would start a business completely unrelated to healthcare. It just so happened that I came full 360 and decided to use it in healthcare. But for me, that was the benefit because I did not plan on going into healthcare. And now if I choose to do another business venture that is not a healthcare related, I feel like I have a more broad view.
I can imagine.
Not just, going into healthcare administration, which is what a lot of people with healthcare focused MBAs turn out and do.
Right. Now you're located in Houston, Texas?
Yes, which happens to be home
H-Town?
Yes, H-Town, home of the largest med center in the world. So I did not know that until after I relocated here, but it's just an ideal location for healthcare and telemedicine.
Before you started Click It Clinic, which is the reason why obviously you're on the show, tell us about your medical career before you started Click It Clinic.
Well, I first started out while doing my MBA in a fellowship year at Kelsey-Seybold Clinic, which is the nation's first accredited accountable care organization. For those who are not familiar, it's a 300 doctor multi-specialty network, which is physician owned. So it definitely gave me a good experience as far as learning how large medical groups are run and operated. I got to see the business as well as the clinical side. When I finished my MBA, my hope was to stay there, but that did not happen. And I transitioned from there to urgent care. In urgent care, I was the first physician in a new location for this urgent care center. They had 2 other locations, so I was a part of the launching of the 3rd location. So essentially, I was there by myself with my staff. So I went from this huge multi-specialty network to a small, almost family-style operation in healthcare. And
how was that transition?
It was good. I felt like I had too much free time on my hands. Honestly, I spent a lot of time on social media, and that led to health coaching, which led to connecting to patients virtually, which gave me the idea and inspiration for Clinic. So in the end, it all worked out.
As you were doing urgent care, did you just find that it wasn't fulfilling enough, or how did you get into virtual physician, taking care of patients in that fashion? How did you step into that?
So I did find urgent care was not fulfilling, but that wasn't the reason I left. I left because with my business knowledge, I realized that I was not being compensated fairly. I was paid less than my male counterparts.
Oh, really?
I had more responsibility. I had better reviews, and basically I was unhappy there. I still have the utmost respect for my former employer as a businessman, because this is what happens every day. But physicians lack the business knowledge, are uninformed, and most of them wouldn't ever walk away from a position like that because they just wouldn't have the knowledge and know-how to do so. But what led to the virtual and doing the Click It Clinic was being dissatisfied there. I felt a need. I still had that deep desire of practicing medicine, and I still wanted to help people. And I started a online healthy living challenge called the Rotation Nutritional Challenge, where I would give people health and fitness challenges monthly. Well, the individuals, the challengers who participated, would then reach out to me through social media for health advice. And the health advice would be more than I want to lose weight. I had people confiding in me. They were depressed. They were abused. They were constipated. It went from serious to minor, but they wanted advice. And here I was, this doctor that was available to them, open, transparent, and they wanted help from me. And
is this all through like Facebook or?
This was all through Facebook. Having a medical degree, having a business degree, I knew that it was not safe nor compliant to treat them. So I never did.
Okay.
But it gave me the inspiration to say, how can I do this? Here is a unfulfilled need. Patients want to be able to connect to doctors online. How can I make this happen? And I quit my job December 31st of 2013. And I started Click It Clinic February of 2014, but I didn't start seeing patients until March of 2014. And so I spent a couple months doing research and development, attending conferences, and really getting the know-how and the industry knowledge I needed to be successful.
Okay, so you gave us all that juicy information, but I want to take some steps back before you even get to that, because that's really what I think a lot of people want to know. So when you decided to leave in December of 2013, what was that like? Like, did you have a lot in savings? At that point, did you just say, to heck with it, I'm just going to jump, see where I end up? Take us through that moment when you decided to leave.
Absolutely not. I did not have a lot in savings. I was very, very nervous and afraid of, survival. And what I did do.
That's real talk. Thank you.
To keep myself afloat, I did locums. During that period of doing my research. I was very transparent with the locums company, letting them know I already would be starting my own business, that I would not accept any non-competes. I would not accept anything that conflicted me from running my own business. And I basically weaned myself off the locums opportunities as I transitioned into starting the practice. And that was how I was able to do that without loans or a huge savings account.
That's pretty hard for a lot of people to do that. So that's really impressive that up front you were able to make sure that there was no non-compete, and then obviously have an end in sight and actually stick to that end in sight and walk away.
Well, I think one of the things I often share with mentees and some of the doctors that I coach is, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you ask for.
That's right. So, that's what I'm talking about. Yep.
Until you ask for it, you will not know what is out there and what you can have.
Now, I wanted to ask you, and we kind of moved past it, but I wanted to take a step back real quick. When you were back in urgent care, you said that you were getting paid less than your male counterparts.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to find that information out. How did you do that? How did you find out that you were getting paid less than your male counterparts? And it may have required some espionage, so I don't want you to get yourself in trouble, but how did you do it?
I wouldn't get in trouble at this point because I'm completely not tied or bound. But the crazy thing is, I found out because I asked. That's how I found out, and okay. Literally, I was having a conversation with my male counterpart for that clinic, and he said, well, we were talking about opportunities outside of the clinic. Apparently, he wasn't completely satisfied, and somehow salary came up, and I said what I made, and he said, and he laughed. He laughed out loud, and I said, is that not what you make? And he said, no, I make more than that.
Wow.
We had the same level of experience, nothing against foreign medical graduates, but he was a foreign medical graduate. And I was actually responsible for reviewing all of the patient surveys for all of the doctors at my location. And he was not a very well respected doctor by the patients.
But he was a boss with negotiating. Yeah.
Exactly. He was a better negotiator. And I can respect that. And going forward, now I know I always ask for more. And if they say no, I'm prepared to walk away.
Well, that's really good advice. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So now we fast forward. Let's say we're in January now of 2014. Yeah. You're doing locums. Obviously, in your mind, You're already starting to work out the plans for Click It Clinic. How is it going now? And we're talking about January, right before you open. How's that going?
I hired a practice startup consultant, and they worked with me to get everything I needed in place. One thing that you'll find with many of my competitors is that they're not credentialed to take insurances. They may have contracts with a corporation to take insurance, but they're not credentialed directly with the insurances. So we went through that process of getting Click It Clinic credentialed for insurances. We have a Medicare number, which most don't have. And we went through finding a location because although I thought I'm starting a virtual practice, I wouldn't need a building. That's not true. The insurance companies won't pay you if you don't have a physical building. So I started looking for a location. And basically my consultant gave me a checklist. Here's everything you need to do in order to launch this practice. And I was able to follow that checklist. I've had friends who started their practice that I've shared that checklist with over time. And it was just a matter of making sure all of the legal aspects were in place, all of the business aspects were in place, all of the clinical aspects were in place, and then being able to go from there.
So what was it like talking to colleagues, friends, family, letting them know that you were leaving urgent care and you were starting this company?
I honestly didn't make a lot of announcements. When I put my mind to something and I decide that it's what I'm going to do, I don't look for validation from others. Not to say that I don't need advice. I always have mentors. I always have an advisory board, but I didn't go and tell it on a mountain. I knew what I was going to do, and I waited until it was ready for the general public to announce that, and that wasn't that early on. It was later, April, after I'd done some testing and things like that before we really started to tell everyone about it.
So tell us about Click It Clinic. What's the deal with it?
Awesome. So I like saying that Click It Clinic is not a telemedicine company. And the best comparison best analogy for that is if you say, what is Apple? Is it a phone company? Is it a computer company? Mm-hmm. No, Apple is a company of innovation. Likewise, Click It Clinic is not a telemedicine company. We are a network of physicians using technology and telemedicine to expand our reach as a practice. So I never like to get bottled in with the other technology companies because this is a company of people. And what we do, Click It Clinic, is we empower doctors to take that technology and work smarter, not harder. What does that mean? The average doctor every day in practice, if you really dig beneath the surface, you find out that those in private practice are struggling. Some are barely making ends meet. They're dissatisfied with medicine. And here's this small piece of technology that literally can turn their entire world around, but they're afraid to use it. That is not being empowered. They're afraid to even look at it, to address it. Most recent update, only 15% of doctors had adopted it. So why? Why are they so afraid to tackle this head on and be leaders? Because they don't know this part. They don't know business. They don't know technology. It's not their area of expertise. So they stick their head in the sand. And most technology companies and telemedicine companies come to doctors and say, well, here's this app. Either you can use it for free, which means they're making a lot of money on you on the back end. Nothing is free. Or they're going to charge you for it monthly. And then if they're charging you monthly, whether you win or lose, they still get to take home that pay. Or you come to Click It Clinic, a company that is totally partnered with you the entire way. We profit share with our doctors, and they know that we're in it for them. If they don't win, we don't win. And we are a complete service provider, from providing the technology, providing the staffing, providing the marketing, providing all of the resources they need. We provide so much more than an app.
That's an excellent analogy with Apple, and it sounds like you're doing really great things. So I applaud you for that. Now, if I'm a physician and I'm interested in what you're saying, is this a practice that I sign up with Click It Clinic and the patients come, or is it I'm transforming my private practice to having the patients contact me, virtually? How does that work?
So we actually help both. We have probably 60% of our doctors are in private practice. And those doctors, we help transition their existing patient base and to adopt technology, start doing telemedicine. We have another subset of doctors, about 40%, who have no clinical practice. They're starting from scratch, and we coach them through this process. Essentially, they're starting a practice brand new. We don't guarantee patients. You're not going to just sit in front of a computer and patients pop up. Instead of giving them fish, we teach them to fish, and we show them the breakdown of the revenue they can make in the long term by investing a little bit in learning how to attract patients versus in the long term signing up with one of these other companies. And your salary 5 years from now will be the same with those companies, and your earning potential over time will never compare to what you can make if you branch out on your own. And by on your own, I mean working with us.
Now, what's the buy-in for patients?
So for patients, really, it's a matter of convenience. And like I said in the beginning, for our patients, knowing that here's a telemedicine provider that has partnered with your doctor. Give any patient that has an established relationship with a doctor the option between going to a provider they don't know and don't trust and their doctor. They want to see their doctor. The problem is their doctor isn't online most of the times. So when Click It Clinic comes in and now we've helped your doctor transform and offer you that online practice, you're like, this is a no-brainer. Of course, I'm not going to go to one of these large telemedicine companies. I want to see my doctor. My doctor is doing this too. Now, for the newer doctor that's just starting up, they don't realize how many people they are connected to would love to see them if they were online and available. So for the patient, it's about convenience, but more importantly, it's about relationships. And the biggest buy-in that we hope in the future for patients will be that we provide the most comprehensive care. We provide evidence-based care. And through our very stringent onboarding process, the doctors that are involved with Click It Clinic truly are the best doctors. And we know that because we verify all of their credentials. Most telemedicine companies, the only thing you need to sign up on their network is the doctor's name, a photo, and the doctor's NPI. Well, the scary part,
that's it?
Yeah, I beg you to go try it for yourself tonight with some of our competitors, which means your NPI is public information. I can Google it and I can get your picture from Facebook. So technically, I can go out there and start seeing patients as you. That's very scary from yours.
Yeah, that is actually.
As a medical doctor, but it should be even more bothersome to the patient, because what guarantee are they getting from that company that the person they're seeing is actually qualified? We all laughed at the little kid that pretended to be a doctor in Florida, but this could be happening all over the country right now, and no one's putting in safeguards except for us. So the buy-in for patients is we tell them that we're a telemedicine company they can trust.
Now, where do you see your company, Click It Clinic, let's say in 5 years?
In 5 years, absolutely. We are a network of 1,000 plus doctors. We are a publicly traded company on the New York Stock Exchange and on the NASDAQ. We are the leaders in not just telemedicine, but in healthcare, providing comprehensive care, not just here in America, but globally. Impressive.
You looking for any trauma surgeons?
I tell every doctor that your knowledge base, that opportunity to connect with patients, all of the surgeons I know, I say, after your patient has surgery, what happens? They still need you. Even if you have to do that post-op check in the office, what if they have a question about antibiotics? Your nurse practitioner could be helping your patients via telemedicine. You can be introduced to patients from abroad who want to fly in to see you for surgery. So there are just so many opportunities. I really believe that as healthcare professionals, we are more than what we do hands-on. This opportunity to share your knowledge is invaluable.
Now, with so many providers I'm looking at your website right now, you already have a ton of providers already, which is impressive already. And I mean, in terms of running this organization, the day-to-day operations, are you involved in that? Because I see you're CEO. Are you running the day-to-day stuff?
Yes, I am. I am the CEO of the company, and we have here in Houston 4 employees as well that work alongside me. I am over the operations, but I definitely don't do it all by myself. We are very blessed to have Dr. Angela Nunnery, our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Andrea Archer, our Chief Compliance Officer. We have our Clinical Care Coordinator here in the office, and we have our business development team creating new opportunities. So it's a full operation. All of our doctors aren't on the website because some are still going through the credentialing process, but currently we have 58 doctors in 21 states, and we look forward to really drastically increasing that number in 2017 based on key strategic partnerships that we will be forming.
Now, are you still practicing?
I still practice. I still see patients.
How do you find the time to do that?
Well, you make the time, and I never want to be so far removed from the clinical that my doctors no longer relate to me, because I remember working in a large organization where there was such a disconnect between administration and the doctors, because our thoughts were, you're not here. You're not seeing patients.
You're not in the trenches.
Exactly. You just make the rules and expect us to follow. So me making time to see patients, now I'm down to 1 day per week, but it's my way of making sure I can always connect with the doctors, always understand the concerns of the patients. And most importantly, I love medicine. So.
Now, do you ever see yourself at any point just completely taking a step away? For example, like in 5 years, that's some pretty lofty goals, but already you're on your way to that point. Do you see yourself still practicing at that point when it's so big?
Absolutely. I have a 5-year-old, and my goal is by the time he's 10, we're out of the country. We are, I'm homeschooling him for a year. We're traveling the world. I have the goals and aspirations for where I want to grow this company. I know that we will reach those goals, and then I want to take a break before I start the next business.
So as CEO of Click It Clinic, do you see, or even just Dr. Rowe as you are right now, do you think, or do you see that there's a difference in your life or who you were before you started this clinic, before you left urgent care versus now?
Definitely. I think that I am very confident now, and I've always been a confident person. I think you have to be to aspire to be a doctor, to go to medical school. But there was always a part of me that doubted, would I be able to get there? Will I be able to do this? Will I be able to run this company? Whereas now I still have my doubts about different things, but I'm walking fully confidently in this role, in this position. I belong here. I'm no longer a physician that's trying to get into the business world. I'm a businesswoman and I'm a physician, and respect the fact that I can do 2 things very well.
So I stalked you and I found the Forbes article on you. Congratulations on being featured in Forbes, by the way.
Thank you.
But one thing that I noted in that article that I thought was really impressive was, you spoke about fear, the fear of leaving your job, the fear of starting a business. Can you talk a little bit about that on this podcast? Tell us about the fears that you faced, during starting or going into the process of starting your own business.
I think the biggest fear, if you are type A and you have always accomplished everything you set out for, is that fear of failure. Like, everything I've ever tried to do. I got into the top colleges I wanted to get into. I passed all of my top classes, with honors. I got into med school the first time I applied. I aced my MCAT the first time. So there's this thought that, everything for you has been too perfect. So now you must fail. You have to fail, because there's no way that you can just keep succeeding like this. That fear in the back of my mind. Along this journey, I've had many failures. I have learned to accept no as a redirection instead of a failure. So when you think about fear, it's this fear that so many people they're counting on me to succeed. They're rooting for me to succeed. And what if I don't succeed this time around? But you learn to let that go and let it motivate you. It's still there. It never completely goes away, but fear can cripple you and you can do nothing with it, or you can ball it up and let it be a catalyst that just pushes you forward. And that's the relationship I have with fear. We wake up, I look fear dead in the face, and I said, bring it on.
That's what I'm talking about, Dr. Rowe. You're getting me charged up. I love it. I love it. Do you regret going into medicine?
Never.
Just saying that maybe business was what was for you?
Never. I don't think that I could be the businesswoman I am today without having gone through medical school, without having the healthcare experience. It's the thing that when I'm in a room of businessmen, because there just are not enough women at this level. So when I'm in that room and I start spitting healthcare facts and figures and knowledge, things that they have to hire analysts to explain to them. And I'm sitting there and I understand the business side, but I fully understand the entire scope of medicine. That becomes your competitive advantage. And without that, I would not be as successful as I am in this industry, because it really allows me to attract more doctors because I am one of their colleagues, and it allows me to separate myself from my competition over and over again.
What about success? You think there's a fear of success?
There is a fear of success, because as much as people root for you and cheer you on when you're successful, the higher you rise, the harder the fall.
That's right.
I have seen it so many times with people I know, people I admire. One of, a doctor here that I have followed since med school residency, she made one mistake and it nearly tore her whole career apart. In fact, in defending her, I myself was attacked, even by her own colleagues. And it just shows you how quickly things can turn if you aren't perfect. And so there's no such thing as being perfect, but it allows me to strive for perfection with this fear, this subtle fear that, the more successful you are, it's the more that the people who are not genuine are just waiting for something to happen. But you let it go and say, I'm going to be wonderful anyway. It's the deep, what are our deepest fears? And I love the line that says, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. And I constantly, if I feel fear coming in, whether fear of failure or fear of success, I remember myself, who are you not to be fabulous? You are a child of God. And I remind myself that's where this energy is coming from. It's fulfilling a purpose. It's doing something that's bigger than me. And I can't let fear hold me back from that.
Love it. I love the answers. Now, what's your advice to others who are looking to leave their traditional practices? And seriously, you fire up. You got me fired up. But if let's say you were talking to another physician, they're in a traditional practice. They could be privately owned practice. It could be an employee type model, and they're looking to become an entrepreneur. What's your advice for that person?
Two pieces of advice. The first piece is to jump, because we all stand on this ledge of entrepreneurship deathly afraid. If you've ever seen the cartoon where the person's standing at the top of the cliff, they're so afraid to jump. And then when they jump, they realize there was a ledge right there. But that whole time they just stood there frozen with fear. Just jump. And you know what? Even if there isn't a ledge, there's a parachute on your back. You may not feel it. You may not know it's there, but you have the ability to succeed and just jump. Go for it. The second piece of advice I would give is that we are all connected and your actions are bigger than you. And that is the problem I'm seeing in this telemedicine space, is that we have yet to come together as a whole and say, okay, let's form networks. It does not have to be a clinic network, but let's form a specialty network. Let's form a state geographic network, because every time we branch out and we try to do something just by ourselves, we've weakened the whole. And that is why they're beating us. It's us, physicians, against them, corporate medicine. And the more we try to stay, quote unquote, independent versus coming together and forming networks, the easier we make it for them to beat us. So if we're going to really be successful, you have to figure out who are you going to partner with to do this. And a partner is not an employer. An employer is using you for their bigger gain. A partner is someone that you go into it, you're putting your income in, you're putting your sweat equity in, you all have collective goals and you move together to achieve it. So I would say that's my advice: to jump, to go for it, but don't try to do it alone. You can succeed as an entrepreneur, but in the big picture, we're not succeeding when we are doing this alone.
It's amazing advice. I love it. I love it. Keep it coming. Tell us about the Minority Virtual Physicians Society. What's that all about?
So the Minority Virtual Physician Society is an organization that I created because I found that a lot of people that reached out to me about Click It Clinic, they weren't interested in Click It Clinic. They were curious about telemedicine. And I had to separate the business from the education. And I wanted to give them the knowledge and advice they needed to be confident and take the next step to entrepreneurship. But they hadn't completed the prerequisites. They had not done the research they needed to do to even consider becoming a telemedicine physician or telemedicine entrepreneur. So it was all about networking and education. And honestly, I did not know how it would go. Our first conference last October, we had a packed house, and I mean, doctors walked away saying older physicians in practice 20 years said it was one of the best conferences of their life.
You streamed it live from your website, right? Click It Clinic website.
We did stream it. And in doing so, we were able to reach about 1,500 viewers. And for me, it was all about, here's the knowledge. If you don't move forward from here, it's not because you didn't know what you needed to know to do this.
And now, in the Virtual Physician Summit, is that a yearly thing?
It's an annual conference. Last year, we were very fortunate to have Dr. Bernard Harris. He is a local physician, entrepreneur, venture capitalist, also the first African-American to walk in outer space, not the first to go to space, but to actually walk in outer space.
Yeah, that's very impressive.
Our speaker for the first conference, and next year we have Kevin MD. So for a new conference, it is the only conference that I have found in my 3 years of experience tailored to physicians. And we also welcome any mid-level practitioners or any collaborators, because our doctors do work with mid-levels, and to be able to come and sharing that knowledge. But it's really the only conference, the only telemedicine conference out there now for clinicians. We know it will be replicated. There is absolutely no doubt. But what we have now is so unique, and we're excited to continue again this year in 2017.
How can they find more information about this summit? Google it, or is it on the Click It Clinic?
You will go to clickitclinic.com. That's the best way to find out more information about the Virtual Physician Summit for next year.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, let's say you had the opportunity to talk to yourself as a pre-med. I don't know if you want to meet yourself as a pre-med. I know I don't want to. But what kind of advice would you, Dr. Rowe, CEO of Click It Clinic, creator of the Minority Virtual Physicians Society, all of that, what kind of advice would you give yourself as a pre-med?
I think back to being pre-med and the enthusiasm. There's nothing in the world you wanted more than to be a doctor. I would say to my very naive self back then, if you could even say that, because you knew back then you wanted an MBA. So I did.
You gotta give yourself more credit.
I was naive about medicine, and one thing I did not do is spend a lot of time with doctors. The few that I came across in Florida, they don't have tort reform, and many doctors there are very jaded, discouraged me from going into medicine. I never discourage aspiring doctors, but I give them the truth. I tell them, what this career is all about, how hard it is, and that you do it because, it's a calling. This is more than a profession. It really is who you are. And even on the worst day in medicine, when I step into a room or I step on an airplane, and I know that the 11 years I invested in my life, that if someone drops in front of me, I have the knowledge, the tools, the skills to revive them. It means a lot. And I would say that it's going to be hard. I would say to my pre-med self, this is going to be a difficult journey, but at the end of the day, what you will gain on this journey is going to be invaluable. And it's something that no one will ever be able to take away from you. So go ahead, do it, have no regrets. And I would say you are a business, and don't let them ever tell you anything else. So whatever they don't teach you in medical school, you better teach yourself. And that's the advice I would give to myself as a pre-med student.
Excellent. I love it. Well, Dr. Rowe, we're getting towards the end of our talk, of our discussion, and it's time for some quick, fast questions. Are you game? Yep. You down?
I'm ready. I'm game.
You ready to do this? Okay. All right. The first question I want to ask you is, what's one thing you want physicians to get from this podcast?
One thing I would want physicians to get from this podcast is that we are not pawns, that life and this
Never had that answer before. That's excellent.
Healthcare game is a game of chess. And right now they have you as pawns. And I need for you all to step up and take your true position as the queens and kings in this healthcare game. You need to take charge. You need to lead, and stop showing up to work every day just doing what they tell you to do.
That's what I'm saying, Dr. Rowe. That's what I'm talking about. Right?
The rules, absolutely. Someone posted in a group today, what are companies offering? Well, whatever you want. That's what they're offering. If we say we're not working for less than $100 per hour, guess what? They can't pay you less than that. But if you come to the table saying, oh, well, what's the industry standard? What are other people making? Stop asking, calculate what you need to make, what you want to make, and demand it. Because you'll never be without a job in this industry. You always have other options. You are not a pawn. That's what I want doctors to walk away with if they listen.
I'm just going to take a guess at this. Any chance that you are coaching? Because you sound like you're a coach.
I do. I have.
I knew it.
have physicians and non-physicians that I coach, and many in the technology space. And I guide them. I try to help them avoid the pitfalls and the mistakes that I've made. And I make time to do that. And people say, you're so busy. How could you ever possibly have time to coach people? You have time for whatever is important to you.
Right.
I'm a mother. I have plenty of time with my son. I am a mentor to others, and I make time because it matters. What if my mentor never made time for me?
It's a great answer. It's a great answer. Who's someone that you admire? And this can be whatever field you want to talk about. It could be medicine, technology, politics.
I would say, if I have to pick one person, I've already mentioned my mentor, Dr. Bernard Harris, and he is without a doubt one of the people I admire greatly, because anyone who reads about him is in awe. But if you know him, then you are even more enamored, because he is such a humble, kind, giving person despite his great achievements. But if I might say one other person, I know you said one.
Come on, keep coming.
The other person I admire, who I have not yet met, but one day I hope I will, is Patrick Soon Shiong. He is also a medical doctor. He is the richest man in healthcare, and he is also the richest man in Los Angeles. So he has broken barriers in healthcare and in his city. But I admire him because being a medical doctor, and if not for him, maybe I would doubt that a doctor could reach that level. But he has shown us, and he's not someone you hear about all the time, that we do belong at the top. We do belong at the top of healthcare, but we need more of us on his heels. So I plan to, disrupt him and shatter all of his achievements one day. But today he is one of the people I admire the most. And I love that he's a philanthropist as well. And, all of the money you make, it doesn't mean much if you don't give back. And so I follow his philanthropy, and that is one of the things that I admire about him a lot as well.
Excellent answer.
Yeah.
Love it. Social media, should we embrace it, or is it a distraction as doctors?
It is how you use it. I see conversations that I have to just ignore every day. This is a touchy point for me, because it's one of the areas that I have to just take a step back and say, you have to let them be, because I do think for most of our colleagues, it is simply a distraction. You look at the comments about Beyonce or clothes or anything that doesn't matter, and there will be 1,000 likes and 300 comments. And if you post about the Affordable Care Act being repealed, about reaching out to senators, about entrepreneurship, don't get
crickets.
The same response. And it's just like, do you know how powerful we are? Do you know that in these groups with 50,000 doctors or 12,000 doctors or 2,000 doctors, if you all put together some funds and start talking about serious business, you all would be untouchable? Do you know that we would be game changers, trailblazers, top of the Forbes list, cover of Forbes, if we used social media to our advantage? If we put out what we want our patients, our followers to hear? But we're not there yet. And I have to reach my goals before I can save them. So right now, you just let them be. So social media is what you do with it. If you look at physicians like Kevin MD, who have built such a strong brand, his advertisements are sold out for the foreseeable future. You know that if you embrace social media, you can be very successful. I hashtag Forbes every day, and then I ended up in Forbes. That's not a coincidence. Editors of magazines these days, not just the editors, but the writers, they are looking for content. So if you're consistently putting content out there, you never know what may be picked up or how you may be discovered. But if you spend every day commenting on meaningless posts, trolling or bashing or being negative or just not being ever serious or branding yourself, then yeah, you're wasting your time and you're probably a pawn.
Wow. Excellent advice. I love the knowledge. Thank you so much for that. Now, the last statement last question that I present to you, to my guest, is it's a statement. It's a hashtag called "I'm not just a doc, I'm a," and it's an opportunity for you to just say, yeah, acknowledge that you're a physician, but also to kind of expound and tell everybody what else you do. I've had people say they're a world traveler. I've had some people say they're a visionary. So for you, Dr. Rowe, I'm not just a doc, I'm a
boss.
Damn, I love it. That's the first time we ever had that. I love it. Excellent. Excellent. Well, Dr. Rowe, I just want to say you truly are a boss, and what you're doing is a game changing. It's amazing. And I think the audience is better off for hearing you on this podcast. Your personality is infectious. Your confidence is really, it got me fired up. I just want to acknowledge you for what you're doing. I want to acknowledge you for, taking a step off the ledge, and taking a jump and landing. Actually, you're still flying actually right now, and taking other physicians with you. And I think that's amazing. I appreciate what you're doing, and I just want to acknowledge you for your efforts.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And for those who are listening, if you are following, if you're on social media, I would love to connect with you on Twitter. I'm there as the Ab Doctor. That's where this all started. And if you are on Instagram, the Bossy MD, that's where I am today. And so I would love to connect with you all. If you all are on Facebook, you can find me on my professional page, Dr. Rowe, MD, MBA. I want to thank you so much as excited as I am to be on this podcast, because I love what you're doing, and I love that you truly are a doc outside the box, and that you are living what you're talking about today. And I hope that all of our colleagues would be inspired through your work, because one day I know that this is going to be so much bigger. So thank you for letting me be a part of what is going to be huge one day.
Dr. Rowe, thank you for expressing those words. I really appreciate it.
That was a good one. Episode 21 is officially over. I really enjoyed that interview, and I'm looking forward to your feedback on that one. Remember, send me feedback. I love feedback. I even read feedback online. Remember, you can always reach out to me through social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And look, I'll catch you on the next one. But as always, you know what time it is. Remember to live outside the box.